Looks like this last iteration bill, spending bill, is going to pass overwhelmingly. Looks like about 80% of the Republicans in the House are voting for it, by my calculation. Looks like most of the Democrats are voting for it. I'm of multiple minds on this, to be perfectly honest with you. We have a Democrat Senate, a Democrat president, and we keep going through this with a very small majority in the House of Representatives. And I'm very sympathetic to the minority in the Republican Party in the House that says, no, that's enough. We got to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. Elon Musk put out a statement. The Speaker did a good job here, given the circumstances. It went from a bill that weighed pounds to a bill that weighed ounces. It was like 112 pages. The ball should now be in the Democrat court. I haven't heard President Trump, but my guess is he's pretty okay with this, too. As I understand it, because there's not a lot of transparency by anybody on anything on any side, is that the complaint is you're not offsetting about $100 billion in spending or $50 billion or whatever it is. Now, most of that money's going towards FEMA activity and farmers. Farmers that are desperate at this point because of certain events that have taken place, and we know about what took place in North Carolina and Georgia and some of these other states. So that's been added into this. It's pretty much otherwise a bare bones bill, but that money is not offset. And so some are saying that's enough already with the debt. What the 80% of the Republicans seem to be saying, and I guess Elon Musk as well, is this is the end of the year. What do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? We don't have the votes to do what you want to do. We just don't have the votes. What do you want us to do? And Schumer's going to block it in the Senate, and Biden's not going to sign it. And what you're going to wind up doing is you're going to drag this in for a couple more weeks and actually interfere with the inaugural events, because they can't go forward with the inaugural events if the government's shut down. Now, my view is different. My view is this is all tiddlywinks. All tiddlywinks. As I wrote and posted on Twitter, as the Daily Signal picked up, we're talking about a pittance here. Pittance of money. The budget's almost $7 trillion. The on-budget debt's over $36 trillion. The off-budget debt's over $300 trillion. You see what I'm saying? And so we have all this drama. All this drama. I don't mind the drama. It doesn't bother me if the government shuts down, because the government actually never shuts down. 74% of the government doesn't even require annual budget votes. Did you know that? And many of you benefit from them. They're called entitlements. I don't call them entitlements. Social Security and Medicare, you've paid into them. But there are entitlements within that allotment of money. That's 74% of the money. When you add in the debt, interest on the debt, which has to be paid, when you add in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, these are considered off-budget items, Social Security and Medicare, because you pay into them with your taxes. The interest is the interest. You have to pay for it. Veterans benefits, these other benefits, so-called, they're all untouchable. They're not part of the regular budget process. So when the so-called government shuts down, you're talking about 26% of the government. It's called discretionary spending. That's what they call it. Half of discretionary spending, 45%, is for defense. So you're really talking about 55% of 26%. So you're talking about, let's say, 15% of the overall budget every year is what they're fighting over. And defense. That's why I watch these things in utter amazement sometimes. I just do. I see Rand Paul say, this is out of control. Mike Lee, we need a new speaker. These guys aren't talking about Social Security. These guys aren't talking about Medicare. They're not talking about Medicaid. They're not talking about the 68% of the budget. That's so-called entitlements, and the interest, there's not a damn thing you can do about it because you got to pay the debt. Nobody is. Our buddy Chip isn't talking about, none of them are. And so they're fighting over 15%, and it's not even 15%. They're fighting over some fraction of a percent of the 15%. Do you see my point, Mr. Producer? So I come behind this microphone, I talk about Convention of States. Do they talk about Convention of States? Never. Because Washington is not going to fix Washington. That's the bottom line. Congress is responsible for laying taxes, for spending and borrowing, specifically the House. Whether the Republicans control it, the Democrats control it, whether it's a large number of Republicans or a large number of Democrats, they can't get a budget system in place. There's supposed to be a budget system. There's supposed to be a budget process. The federal budget, for whatever the reason, goes from October 1st to September 30th. And here we are talking about a spending bill right before Christmas, 5 days before Christmas and Hanukkah, for the year that's passed already. So I'm not impressed with these so-called conservatives. I'm just not. Or anybody else for that matter. But if you're going to talk about, you're concerned seriously about the debt, because there are people who aren't on Capitol Hill. In fact, I would say majority of them. But if you're going to say you're concerned about the debt, then why don't you act like it? Why don't you talk about what I'm talking about? Because they don't want to, because they're afraid they'll lose their seats. That's why. It all comes down to immorality. This is all immoral. That's the bottom line. I don't attack Mike Johnson any more than I would attack Kevin McCarthy. Why? Because they're caught in this system. It's not a system of their making. And you might say, well, why don't they fix it? Because they don't have a majority in their party that want to fix it. The other party helped create it. The other party controls the Senate. The other party controls the presidency. Exactly what is a Speaker McCarthy or a Speaker Johnson supposed to do? I'm quite serious. And I'm sure that's why Elon Musk himself said the Speaker did a good job here. Let's go to Mike Johnson live right now. Go ahead.
The right thing. And having gotten this done now as the last order of business for the year, we are set up for a big and important new start in January. We can't wait to get to that point. We encourage swift passage in the Senate now. They need to do their job as the House just did. We will all go home. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year, because I hope not to see you until we get back after that. I was in constant contact with President Trump throughout this process. Spoke with him most recently about 45 minutes ago. He knew exactly what we were doing and why, and this is a good outcome for the country. I think he certainly is happy about this outcome as well. Elon Musk and I talked within about an hour ago, and we talked about the extraordinary challenges of this job. And I said, hey, you want to be Speaker of the House? I don't know. He said, this may be the hardest job in the world. I think it is. But we're going to get through this. We are going to unify this country, and we are going to bring the America First agenda to the people beginning in January. We cannot wait to get started. I hope you all have a great holiday.
What he's trying to say there, what he did say there, we'll have the Senate, we'll have the presidency, we'll have a bare majority in the House, but it'll be much easier for us to get together and work on this. And here's the truth. Whatever happens or doesn't happen will be completely on the Republicans now. Whether you think it should be or not, whether I think it should be or not, it will be. It will be. That's just the bottom line. And so I look at McCarthy, I look at Johnson, and I say to myself, what do people expect them to do exactly? Because the bigger problem is the system is broken. It's corrupt. That's what it is. That's why I wrote this book, Liberty Amendments. That's why Mark Meckler and I have talked about Convention of States. That's why his organization has broken its ass going from one state legislature to another to another. You had what, 30, 35, 38 Republican votes, representing about 20% of the Republicans in the House. Okay. This thing passed with well over 2/3, almost 3/4 of the vote of the House of Representatives. So we don't control the House. The Freedom Caucus doesn't control the House. It doesn't even control the Republican caucus. And this is my point. This is my point. Rand Paul doesn't represent even a small percentage of the Republicans in the Senate. And they tried to put they tried to put Rick Scott in his majority. Didn't even come close. Okay, so what do? We keep whining, keep taking votes, keep replacing leaders. Well, that's not going to do a damn thing. It's just not. And Ron Paul can't get elected the Republican leader. Tom Massey can't get elected the Republican leader in the House. So what are we going to do? Keep shooting spitballs? Again, that doesn't mean you have to go along. I'm one of those who doesn't mind a government shutdown. I've been sitting behind this microphone talking about government shutdowns for 25 years. They actually work. It's okay. But even when they work, to what end? To some small percentage of discretionary spending? Wow, that's a big accomplishment. We have a bigger problem. A much bigger problem. And I don't know if we can fix it at this point. I'm a skeptic. I don't know. I just don't know. But there is, now listen to me, this is very important. There's a complete disconnect. These guys are working within a system that's dysfunctional. And then they attack the leader that's voted by the overwhelming majority of their party, the Republican Party. But they don't fight the system. They don't fight the system. They don't have the votes. They keep running up the mountain. They keep getting picked off. And they keep running up again. They keep getting picked off. And then they blame the general. We keep running up the mountain. We keep getting picked up. You're running up the wrong mountain. It's the wrong mountain. It's like Pickett's charge. I feel like this is Pickett's charge all the time. It's okay. And again, I told you, I don't mind a government shutdown. There were 6 of them under Reagan. There's been 21 of them since the 1970s. There were 2 of them under Donald Trump. Remember our friend Ted Cruz? He led a big one to fight Obamacare. He came under attack. Mitch McConnell's ideologically, almost religiously, opposed to them. He's a buffoon. He's a fool. It does create leverage. It actually, in the mid and long term, helps with respect to that small percentage of discretionary spending. But what are we going to do about Social Security? The trustees say it's going broke. What are we going to do about Medicare? The trustees say it's going broke. You know what we're going to do about Social Security? There's a bill on the Senate floor that's going to pass very soon by Schumer. It's got huge bipartisan support in the House and the Senate. And you know what it does, Mr. Producer? Adds millions of people to an expanded Social Security payment. All the individuals who have government pensions besides Social Security, they don't get a full Social Security pension. The theory is they're both kind of government pensions, and so we will offset some of the government pensions from the Social Security pensions. And so they've decided, no, it's not fair. Those people should get full Social Security pensions too. Okay, fine. Where's that money coming from? Absolutely nowhere. You know how much that adds to the expenses on Social Security? Over $200 billion. In some cases, the estimate is $600 billion. So what does that mean exactly? It's fair, but Social Security is going to collapse sooner. So what are the Republicans and Democrats going to do about it? They just added more spending to it. They're not going to do a damn thing about it.